Zqka, the Polymath. Episode 1. In the halcyon peripheries of a mountain-laden topography, there existed an antediluvian hamlet, concealed beneath stratospheric congeries of nebulous fog and sylvan arboreal canopies. The inhabitants, a consortium of erudite yet eccentrically reclusive individuals, engaged in quotidian rituals of perspicacious introspection, punctuated by sporadic excursions into hypercosmic transcendentalism. Their lingua, suffused with sesquipedalian enunciations, was at once mellifluous and ineffably labyrinthine, permitting communication that was simultaneously convivial and esoterically abstruse. Among these denizens resided a young polymath named Zqka, whose proclivities for ontological inquiry and metaphysical ruminations eclipsed the pedestrian cognitions of his peers. Zqka, despite his perspicacity, contended with an ineffable disquietude, an enigmatic apprehension that oscillated between melancholic reverie and euphoric anticipation of the numinous. He frequently perambulated the chimerical outskirts of the hamlet, traversing vernal meadows bespeckled with floriferous curiosities and enigmatic lithic formations, contemplating the intricate juxtaposition of existential vicissitudes and cosmic synchronicities. One particular crepuscular interstice, as aureate rays diffused through umbrageous boughs, Zqka discerned a phenomenon both recondite and ineffably captivating, a kaleidoscopic cascade of luminescent effulgence emanating from a fissure in the lithospheric substrate. This fissure, imbued with a metaphysical palpability, exuded an aura of thaumaturgical potentiality, as though it were an interdimensional conduit, a liminal vestibule between corporeal temporality and the ineffable continuum of metaphysical infinitude. The young polymath approached with cautious reverence, his vestibular senses inundated with a confluence of awe, trepidation, and anticipatory exhilaration. Within the subterranean aperture, he encountered an entity of ineffable complexity, a chimerical amalgam of bioluminescent stratifications and sentient luminescence, undulating with an orchestrated cadence that resonated harmonically with the innermost quanta of consciousness. The entity, a sentient manifestation of hyperdimensional cognition, communicated not through conventional articulation, but via a synesthetic symphony of chromatic phantasms, vibrational oscillations, and emotive inflections, engendering an epiphanic comprehension within Zqka's cognitive matrix. Extrapolate thy existential paradigms, the entity insinuated without utterance. For the teleological concatenation of experiential phenomena necessitates perspicacious discernment and ontological audacity. Synthesize the ephemeral vicissitudes of corporeal temporality with the eternal veracities of hypercosmic verities. Zqka, his neural synapses surfeited with ineffable awareness, endeavored to parse the subliminal entanglements of the entity's communicative modalities. His consciousness, now an effervescent crucible of cognitive luminescence and metaphysical proliferation, apprehended the infinitesimal interstices between causality and serendipity, determinism and spontaneity. He perceived that each quanta of existence, each ostensibly trivial occurrence, was imbued with hyperdimensional significance, a resonant chord within the grand symphonic tapestry of the cosmos. Compelled by an inexorable curiosity, Zqka traversed labyrinthine catacombs, their stalagmitic and stalactitic formations oscillating with phosphorescent intensity, and arrived at a sanctum of ineffable antiquity. Here, arcane manuscripts of such unparalleled erudition that they defied conventional semiotic interpretation were inscribed upon the petrified substrata of the cavern. The manuscripts delineated cosmological axioms, metaphysical precepts, and ontological paradigms whose complexity transcended the mere faculties of language, yet resonated directly with the consciousness, insinuating a profound telepathy of comprehension. He immersed himself within the manuscript's numinous content, each symbol a fractalized corollary to the ineffable order permeating the cosmos. Zqka discerned patterns of hyperdimensional synchronicity, recursive ontological loops, and metaphysical dialectics that elucidated the quintessential congruence between microcosmic and macrocosmic phenomena. The cavern itself seemed to exude a sentient cognizance, as though the lithic walls were a living lexicon, attuned to the oscillatory rhythms of introspective contemplation. Days, weeks, or perhaps aeons may have elapsed. Temporal delineation had become an inconsequential construct. When Zqka emerged from the subterranean sanctum, irrevocably transformed. His consciousness now oscillated with a luminosity akin to the auroral effulgence that had initially beckoned him. The hamlet, once perceived as a terrestrial locus of relative stasis, now manifested as an intricate lattice of interrelated experiential vectors, each imbued with potentialities heretofore inconceivable. His fellow denizens, initially skeptical of Zqka's ecstatic elucidations, gradually discerned the subtle percipience emanating from his presence. Through his meticulous explications, they apprehended the profound consonance between corporeal temporality and hyperdimensional infinitude, recognizing that each quotidian action was both a reflection and an instantiation of metaphysical verities. Communal rituals, formerly perfunctory, were transmuted into dynamic enactments of hypercosmic congruence, suffused with intentionality, reverential cognizance, and experiential plenitude. And yet, despite the transcendental elucidations, Zqka retained an ineffable humility, cognizant that the totality of knowledge remained asymptotic, an ever-receding horizon within the multi-dimensional continuum. He understood that the pursuit of comprehension, rather than its consummation, constituted the quintessence of existential fulfillment. In this realization, the hamlet attained a harmonious equilibrium, a liminal interstice wherein cognitive expansion and experiential plenitude coalesced, engendering an enduring state of beatific serenity. Thus, the tale of Zqka, polymathic visionary and metaphysical wayfarer, became enshrined within the collective consciousness of the hamlet, an enduring parable of perspicacity, reverential inquiry, and the transcendent splendor inherent within the ceaseless oscillations of existence. And in the penumbra of mountain ridges, beneath interweaving canopies, the luminous cadence of awareness persisted, an eternal symphony of sentience, awaiting those audacious enough to perceive and wise enough to comprehend.